Howdy, everybody. Bob Tallman for No Spin Rodeo. No politics, no BS, just hard-hitting news and rodeo commentary from two of the most trusted sources in our sport. Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe, Lucia. Listen up. Here we go.
Well, happy November. It's episode 83. You're listening to No Spin Rodeo, where you get the truth, the unbiased truth, no BS, and you're the first to hear of everything that's really actually happening in rodeo. Welcome, No Spinners. I'm Tommy Joe Lucia. I'm joined with my co-host and the first lady of pro rodeo journalism, Kendra Santos, who I think is in the center of the U.S., not on the West Coast. Is that right?
In the heartland. Absolutely.
Heartland.
I have so much Midwest girl at my core. The last few days being in the Midwest, South Dakota, Nebraska, Oklahoma, it's so me. And like my grandparents on my mom's side coming from Nebraska, like I feel so at home in the Midwest. So anyway.
Well, you know, the Midwestern people are just real. They've always been real. Like they've got a lot of qualities of no spin, you know. So we go out and work.
They work hard. They're honest. They love to cook. They love to eat good food. I mean, there's so much that I just love. So anyway.
Well, it's a good day. It's a pretty day in Texas. I hope it's a pretty day where you're at. I'm going to kick it off with you. Why don't you spin us around the rodeo world a little bit and tell us what you've got, and we'll go from there. How about that?
Fair. And what I will just say that I go into this I was just talking about good food. Oak just made a beautiful dinner of pork chops, beets, hominy, mashed potatoes, watermelon, and apricot upside down cake made from scratch. So I'm lucky. And if I doze off with you, don't worry about it.
That's a spread.
That's a spread. But it reminds me of all my great aunts and everybody from Nebraska. And we would go there and it would be like we would eat 4 times a day. And we would have a late night dessert for after breakfast and after lunch and after supper. And then late night, cake and pies. Anyway, okay. So back
when
to
I walk by, hold on. When I walk by Oak, if I just walk by him, I don't go, oh, that big giant Okie is probably a master chef. Like, he does not look like, he must love to cook. He does not look like a master chef to me.
He loves to cook.
Obviously he is.
And he was really close to his mom, Mary Lou, and he cooks out of her cookbook all the time. Just beautiful food. And so it's lovely. And also the roses that he planted last time I was here have come up and are in full bloom. So anyway, other things that you might not expect. But anyway, today is November 4th.
He's a gardener. Okay.
He loves to garden. He loves to grow things. Anyway, breaking news today, November 4th, Teton Ridge announced a leadership change today. And so just the bare bones of it, Deirdre Lester is out. Sean Colo is in as executive chairman. And what I found on him is that he most recently founded a growth equity investment firm focused on technology. Teton, this is just very basics for people who have no clue, but I feel like Teton has been shrouded in mystery since they started, right? No one really understands, but Teton is owned by TWG Global, which is a diversified holding company led by Thomas Toll and Mark Walter. Teton was founded in 2019, so it's now 6 years old, and now has additional investors, Jim Breyer and the Lee Bass family office. So I don't know what you know about this, but I don't know what this is going to mean to us in rodeo. What do you think?
Yeah, well, one of the things that Teton has not done well is figured out a way to connect, I think, with our culture, frankly. I think that, they report, they're doing a really good job with their media. They're very clean and classy. And they do a good job. However, just like you said, we don't really feel like we know who they are. I do understand that Mr. Tull is relatively private, stays out of a lot of these things. The only thing that I smell from this, so Miss Lester, I think, was a visionary. And so I don't know, I don't know if she was fired or decided to leave or a combination of the both. But when you read up about this Colo guy, he seems like a nuts and bolts kind of streamline manager. You know what I'm saying? Clean up the business. And if you look at the fact that they sold all their horses for a record number of dollars ever, and you look at kind of what they're doing in the business, I think it's probably time, and wisely so, that Teton Ridge figures out how to make their investment in the Western lifestyle pay off, or they won't last. Because rich people do not play poker for too very long, even if they love the game. So
Sustainability is important to any business, right? And so that's why I always say, well, sometimes when people criticize even just a rodeo or whatever for, making money or whatever, and I'm like, well, for if something's going to continue, it has to be profitable. Otherwise, it's a losing venture and it's not sustainable, right? So to me, I don't begrudge anyone to make money. One thing I will say, just as a statement, is that you do not have to torch tradition to move the rodeo needle. I think that's a fair statement. I don't
well,
know.
and do you think there's examples of them torching tradition?
I'm not even saying, hey, Teton Ridge, this is what you should do. Let's just step back. Things have been said about, oh, we never make mistakes or whatever. I mean,
Oh no, Miss Lester. It's funny because she was reported as saying, I actually heard her say, I don't make mistakes, which is kind of funny because when I read this headline, I was like, well, either she made a mistake or Teton Ridge thought he made a mistake, right? Something happened here that they separated ways.
Well, to me,
So,
generally speaking, and I'm not speaking directly to anyone, but arrogance is not the answer to anything. I will say that as a blanket statement. It's just a general life statement. I will also say, I think it's fabulous to go for more fans and absolutely mainstream everything. More people we can bring into the Western lifestyle and the Western culture and Western sports and rodeo. Grand. All good. And I've always tried to do that also as a journalist. But I
but
will say,
you can't mainstream like Patrick. So here's the reality, and I think they're doing this right, Kendra, and you may not agree with me. But the reality is that I like that they're going to put all of the rodeo on the Cowboy Plus app. Right now, if you're out there and you're listening to us and you're like, I don't want to watch anything on the app, on and on and on, you're a little bit older or whatever, figure it out because you'll get to because what eventually will happen, mark my words, is all of the rodeo that you've seen 24/7 on the broadcast side on the Cowboy Channel cable network will start being replaced with other content like Hell on Wheels. They've got some documentaries. They've got the rights to Lonesome Dove. When I look at the things that they're doing, I like them, right? Now, if it were all Hell on Wheels, right? All, kind of Rocker Steiner flavored type reality-ish, I wouldn't like that, but I'm seeing that they're doing some documentaries, they're doing some other stuff. And that variety is part of, what I'm getting at is you're right. We need to mainstream it, but we also need to continue to look at pieces of our culture that new fans can engage in, because not everybody wants to watch rodeo 24/7.
Yes, and my sentence was half over, like when you jumped in about that. Like, I'm saying, go for more fans, expand into the mainstream. All that is fantastic. But the second half of my sentence is, do not disrespect or forget about our rodeo base. And I think, or do that and see how far you get. Because I think progress is absolutely great, but it doesn't have to come at a price tag. Variety, you just mentioned the word variety. Variety is great, but people love to watch a rodeo too. And so I don't think it's either or, but I'm just saying, I think sometimes people who've come and gone into rodeo and then left over the years, sometimes they just don't recognize or respect the strength of our base. If you don't think we have a strong base, I mean, stand back and watch what happens every time a member of our rodeo family is in need. Our base is strong and has a very loud voice, and so you want those people too. Bringing in more people, fantastic, but you don't want to lose or disrespect our base. That's just
I
my
agree.
personal feeling.
I think it's tricky. I completely concur with you. 100% agree. However, sometimes the traditionalists really don't want anything to change. In fairness, nothing, right? They want it exactly the way that it's always been, and progress never happens without some adjusting, right? It just doesn't, and so I agree with you. Don't leave the base behind, but the base also needs to have a little bit of understanding that trying new things doesn't mean that you're tarnishing our culture.
Right. But and compromise can be a thing. And you can do really cool things without, for example, compromising competitive integrity, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. It can be tried, and that's great without sacrificing some of the very basic points that are important at the center of our culture. So anyway, I think we better keep moving. Okay, yesterday, we're on current events right now. November 3rd, this year's winner of the Donita Barnes Lifetime Achievement Award was announced. Congratulations, Tommy Joe Lucia. This is a big deal. This is a contract personnel award, correct?
It is.
Okay, so
Now, but the entire membership votes on it. I did find that out.
okay, well, so I know how honored you were just to be nominated for this award. We talked about that for a minute last time. How sweet is it? How satisfying is it to win this thing? I feel like
Good
you're so
question.
often the guy behind you're the guy behind a lot of curtains. And this is like brings you into the spotlight. That's cool.
To be honest, I've never really cared if I was in the spotlight. However, what brings a smile to my face is the company that I'm joining in this award, the nominees that were in it, because I do believe that these are the people that often have put in a lot to help our sport and haven't asked for much back. Like the sport's been, God has blessed me unbelievable in this sport. Like I'm not taking anything away, but it's the right company for me. Like if you had to ask me what award would you ever consider wanting to be a part of, this is exactly the one I want. So I'm completely honored, and I'm producing the award show. And someone texted me and they said, are you going to talk as long as Rump? And I said, no, or not Rump, Rumford, not Rump. When I say Rump, everybody thinks Justin. But Rump, anyway, I said, no, I've given myself 3 minutes to talk. So I'll set my headset down. I'll walk around to the stage. I'll talk for 3 minutes and then I'll hook myself out. And so, yeah, it's cool. Thank you though. Thanks for the shout.
Before, I want to ask you a couple things that I'm curious about, and so other people probably would too. But I did want to zip through the past winners. So Donita Barnes herself won the first Lifetime Achievement Award in 2011. Art and Linda Alsbaugh, Fred and Norma Dorenkamp, Quail Dobbs, Cotton Rosser, Karen Bold, Jim and Julie Sutton, Hadley Barrett, Roy and Virginia Honeycutt, Cindy Rosser, Kay Gabe, Ron Grumford, Scott Walton, and Edie Longfellow last year. That is some pretty cool company. So particular to you, because I think a lot of people, including younger people or whatever, would be curious about that. Were you 3 when you first set foot out into a rodeo arena while the rodeo was going on? Is that right? What
That's
were you
correct.
doing and were you potty trained?
Well, yeah, but I think I went to the bathroom in my pants. So to give you a quick summary, it was at the Phoenix Rodeo of Rodeos. This was a big PRC rodeo back in the day. And Dad decided that he would do this little routine right before the bull riding. And so they rolled the clown barrel out with me in it. Well, so I'm 3 years old and I have to figure out how to hang on in a rolling barrel. I remember that being challenge number 1 at 3. I remember that. And the other thing that I remember about that time is that we talked about it with Rob Smets. Remember, we talked about how strong Wick Peth was? Well,
Yeah.
they did this deal where Wick Peth ran up and goes, "Oh no, Tommy got so scared he shrunk." And I was dressed exactly like Dad. And I was very much like a ball with small little legs my whole life. And he reached down and pulled me out of the barrel, right? And he gripped my wrist so hard when he pulled me out that it hurt. And he set me down. And I remember Dad telling me, "You got to run as hard as you can, hard as you can, hard as you can. And then you turn around and we practice this bow," right? And so I got to the ground and I'm going through and I'm like, "Run as hard as you can." And I almost forgot to bow. So right before I got to the gate, I spun around to bow, fell down, got up, did my bow. The crowd went nuts. And then I did that routine with Dad, that same thing until I got too big. But at 3, I performed there. And then when I was 7, they gave me my first buckle. And it was a real buckle like they give their champions, right? It was huge. And I can remember getting that and going into the dressing room and turning all the lights off while Dad was performing and thinking, "This buckle glows." And it's on my mantle. In 1977, I don't remember what year it was they gave it to me. So yeah, I've been in this silly game of ours 53 years, Kendra. Isn't that
That's
something?
that's awesome. I mean, really, yeah. Then that little bow was 53 years ago. Yeah, that's amazing. So, okay, so I'm going to ask you how many hats you've worn in rodeo: clown, bullfighter, barrelman, rodeo producer. Am I missing anything? Did you ever enter anything? Did you ever compete or no?
The only time I competed was at Tuff Hedeman's competition at his ranch for the PBR. I forgot what the Ironman. I competed in the Ironman, they called it. The PBR guys all went there.
Oh,
Do you
I
remember that?
went. Oh, I
Yeah.
went. Guides drove golf carts into ponds and things like that.
And
Yes.
they tried to kill me. They almost killed me there. No, I never, because Dad was a performer, right? And so, yeah, I clowned and I got interviewed today. And literally, in my young, early teen years, I made a conscious decision that I was going to go to college. And the reason was because I thought there's not a very good retirement plan in rodeo. This is at a young age. I'm thinking, if I want something nice, I'm probably not going to get it by being a rodeo clown. So I went to college, got 2 degrees, and paid, you know, paid for college with rodeo and in clowning, and never left it. Right? I mean, I got those degrees, still have the degrees. I can teach political science, communications, marketing. They're all on the wall. I haven't used them. Well, I've used them in our sport. So to answer your question specifically, I was a clown. I actually settled. I went to work with Steve Gander and started producing World's Toughest, learned how to do settlements. And when I first took my job with the PBR, I was producing the event and clowning and then going to settlement where you agree on how much money you get for the ticket sales. I did all of that in clown makeup. So I've carried panels. I can honestly say that I don't know that there's anything other than competition. Now, I got on a bull, didn't like it. I never got on a bucking horse. I got on one bull, didn't like it, got scared, got thrown off. That's it. Like, I
I
can ride
have
a
so
horse.
much respect for back to the work ethic thing that we talked about at the beginning. For the working thing, Oat, his dad, he since he, permit card to this day, whatever gold card, he always had, in addition to a contestant card, he was always listed as labor also. And in the early days, he would get to a rodeo and he would go see whoever, the stock contractor, and he untied calves, he loaded cattle, he fed cattle, whatever. And I admire that. Like, he wanted to be there, he wanted to enter pretty bad, and so he worked. He didn't just nod his
Well,
head.
interesting. What doing everything really helped me to do, and I know you understand this in managing journalists and stuff. If you've had to do it, you've actually done it. If you've actually built an arena, then when you plan it, you actually know what these people are going through, what it takes to get it done. And there's been many times I've told team members and people that work for me, look, I know what I'm fixing to ask you to do sucks because I've done it. This is going to suck, but we got to do it. And I'll come help you if I can. And you've probably been there. And I think that creates loyalty amongst the people that work with you, but it also helps you manage well. You know how long it takes with certain stories to get it done right. And,
Yes.
not everybody does that. They get these jobs and they didn't work their way up there. I have a problem with leaders that haven't led through the ranks getting up there because they don't know what they're asking their people to do.
Yes. And I always felt like that in managing people. Like, I would never ask anyone to work harder, work longer hours, nothing I hadn't do, wouldn't be willing to do by their side, whatever, because we're all in this together for sure. So, okay. So huge congratulations on that. And I think I can't wait for the moment when you have to put your headset down and step onto that stage. It's super cool. Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so while we're with current events, Oak and I just went to a super cool event Saturday night it was the in South Dakota at the Casey Tibbs. His he was born and grew up till 8th grade in South Dakota and then moved to Nebraska. But the Casey Tibbs Foundation tribute dinner at the Casey Tibbs South Dakota Rodeo Center in his hometown of Fort Pierre, Casey Tibbs' hometown. So, did I name these people last time? I don't think I did. But I'm just going to rattle through. You think I did? This year's honorees included Rodeo Cowboy Great Cole Elshier, Rodeo Cowgirl Great Christy Steffes, past rodeo great Cliff Glade. His daughter Cheyenne was there to receive it for him because he is in hospice right now. So prayers for that family. Rodeo promoter Jordan Tierney Santos, who is my daughter-in-law. Animal athlete Coffee Jeff, who belonged to Jordan's Hall of Fame dad, Paul Tierney, and was a straight outlaw. And Paul bought him at a sale barn for $460. And he was about to be sold to somebody, something to do with coyote hunting, for $450. But Paul bought him for $460 and won two gold buckles on him. And he told funny stories about how guys like Dean Oliver rode this horse, but then you could only get back on one side. And if you tried to get on the wrong side, he'd drag off and you'd get flagged out and it was a wreck. But anyway, and then the ranch family was the Stoddards. So, so everywhere I go, everywhere you go, there's always things that happen that you don't expect. But I did not know before Saturday night that Cole Elshier, who is a 4-time NFR bronc rider, and he's the one who played Casey Tibbs in the movie Floating Horses, that he's been out since neck surgery in May. I was not aware of that till Saturday night. But I also didn't know that Red Lemmel and Bud Longbreak, who's now gone, mentored Cole Elshier, and they would never take a nickel. And now Cole Elshier is mentoring young Badlands kids, and he won't take a dime either. But anyway, I'm happy. The happy news here is that Cole just got cleared, and next month in November he can get back to riding broncs. Very cool.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, his old traveling partner Chuck Schmidt, who's a 3-time NFR bronc rider, and his family were rear-ended on their way to church. They stopped or slowed down for a construction zone about a week and a half ago, and on their way to church, and they all left the scene in an ambulance, and their little boy Levi left with life-threatening injuries and was life flighted not once but twice, and is now in Minneapolis. Anyway, I just if we could all pray for that family, because every single one of them, including Hannah, the mom, was seriously hurt, but then is with her son somewhere else, so they're not all together. But the bottom of it, like Cole was saying Saturday night, he was with Chuck up in Olds, Alberta, when Chuck broke his neck in a bronc riding wreck a few years back. And in this wreck, Chuck broke his neck again. And so I don't know. This is a classic example of how amazing our rodeo family is in standing behind people when these sorts of things happen. But these are sort of unthinkable hardships. Anyway, from this kind of ties together, because from South Dakota, Oat and I went and stayed at Brady's bunkhouse in O'Neill, Nebraska, with our friends Jim, Susan, and Riley Wakefield. So I always say how connected we are in rodeo. Brady Wakefield was a young, talented timed event cowboy from Nebraska who died in a rollover accident 10 years ago in the summer of 2015. Well, Oat calls me one day in the summer of 2015, July, and says, there's this really cool kid from Nebraska, Brady Wakefield, and he just rode my horse at Spooner, Wisconsin. And Oat was hauling like Tyler Wagisback and Rowdy Perrott back then. And this cool kid, Brady Wakefield from Nebraska, rode his horse and Oat hazed for him. And the kid was 3 for the first time in his life, and he was thrilled and he was so pumped, And then a few days later, I remember I was at Salinas at Slack, and Oak calls me and he goes, "Remember that kid I was telling you about?" And Brady, dear goodness, but he died. He died. And so I always say that Brady, introduced us to that family. Like we're like family now. And Riley, for a time, was living down in Texas with my son Taylor. We've spent Thanksgiving together. Like, these are amazing people. But so Oat and I just spent Saturday night, or Sunday night, I guess it was, in Brady's bunkhouse. And we get up at the crack of dawn to leave, and like I'm making the bed, and there's a picture right above the bed of Brady, and clearly it's like signed by his Gillette College roommates. Well, the first signature I see is Christy Steffes, right? And she just got inducted the night before, and I'm like, how in the world did he? And she and her sister Nikki, who's also a past rodeo great in that inductee there, they both came up and they were so nice. That's the first time I'd gotten to meet them, and they said, they'll be out riding horses and listening to our podcast and stuff. Anyway, they were so cool, so nice. They're amazing cowgirls. But that's the name I saw, when it's just, I don't know, the connections never end. But I just, there's no bottom to how many cool people and how we are. There's some saying about if you go somewhere, the odds of you having the same birthday as this is, if you're on any airplane, there will be multiple people with the same, different little things. But I just don't think there's much for coincidence anymore. I think there's like a master script, and somehow I crossed your path on the master script. I don't really know why, but I did. But anyway, I just think it's cool how we're all, there's these connections all the time. No coincidences. I don't even think that they exist anymore. Anyway, okay, but now moving forward, I feel like you had some news you were going to maybe share about the PRCA convention.
Well, just a couple notes. Now, for those of you who are listening, spinners, and aren't as intimate in the business, the PRCA holds its national convention prior to the NFR. They hold it at the South Point Hotel. It's December 1st through 4th at the South Point, which is, as we know, it's the home away from home. Like if you're going to the NFR and you've went there and you have not donned the doors of South Point, you've made a mistake. You will learn more about real rodeo going, but anyway, go to South Point. But the convention, another thing, if you're a rodeo committee out there, if you're a contract personnel member, if you're a fan, go to the PRCA's convention if you can. You will learn something. You will meet a lot of really cool people. There's a lot of really great presentations. And it's the 1st through the 4th. Now, I'm not a big fan of the names of conventions because I don't know whether they grok this or chat. They come up with the cheesiest names, in my opinion. But anyway, the name of it is, for this year, Brighter Together. Sounds very sweet. It's
I do have
together.
a question for you about that. Can fans really go, or do you not have to be a PRCA member of some sort to go?
I think you do to get into the to get into specific things. However, what I'm encouraging them is, you've got the buck and horse sale. There's so much going on there, and all of the contract personnel are in the halls. So you're right. In order to get into those rooms, you have to register, and you have to be a card member or a committee member and use a number to get registered. So you are correct there. However, don't let that discourage you from hanging out
It's
around
called
there.
Cowboy Central for a reason. And even you have all the brawn cultures on the wall, and then you have the World Series of team roping there, and you will run into 10,000 people that have some kind of something to do with rodeo. It really is, like, it is the meeting place. And it used to seem like it was a million miles away from the Thomas and Mack, but now we don't even blink.
If you know how to get there through the airport, it's not bad. But if
No,
you are
tell people about that.
That's true. That's true. I retract that statement. However, registration's open now. So if you're a committee member or you're a contract personnel or whatever and haven't registered yet, get your butt in gear, get registered. The convention is something. And, even some of these rodeo committees, I encourage you to go there and pick out some of these seminars and things, because while there's 50% of it that I think is probably boring and you probably won't learn anything, I think there's a good 35% of it that's really, really good. So,
well, to me, exchanging ideas is like, why not? Because if maybe somebody has just a couple little things here or there, also for people that don't understand it, like a lot of, say, up and coming announcers or bullfighters or whatever, they go there to mingle and meet rodeo committees and try to get more jobs, right?
but the amount of conversation, the bar right down there at the end of the hallway of the convention, I'm telling you, go hang out around that bar and listen to the conversations, right? There'll be old timers there and young kids there, and the old timers are coaching up the young kids, and they got their little book and they're hoping they can get a job as a bullfighter somewhere. And the old timer will say, well, you ought to go talk to that stock contractor over there. You won't get paid much, but you'll get a job. It's just, if you're interested in this kind of stuff, there's a lot of eavesdropping that's very educational.
Yeah, the only thing that I almost feel like is that it almost should be like you should almost have to check your cell phone at the door, because sometimes there's things. Everybody needs to remember that in the day and age of cell phones, everything's on the table for what you might be caught in the act of. Just remember that.
It's really good that they didn't have recording capabilities in the early years of the PBR. Anyway, so convention's on. That's really all I had was the convention. And did you run through kind of all of your current stuff? I think you did. Didn't
I
you?
just thought, I feel like, do we not have kind of a lot of feedback? We
got some feedback. We challenged our people and they gave us some feedback. So if you're ready for that, we'll jump into it. and we'll knock it around a little bit for today. First one is from Charlie. Charlie says, in several interviews and podcasts lately, there's been talk of gold buckle tickets, the moat, things like that. Can you give us a little history on this?
I'll
Good question.
say a couple
You wanna
things.
start?
Like, for one thing, like I don't know what year it was, but the gold buckle seats didn't used to exist. And the first, I don't know how many years, the first NFR I worked was 1987, and for however many years it was, there was a moat right there. Like now, the timed event guys, they have to ride their horses all the way around, and then they come in the back, which is down. Okay, the NFR press room is the practice basketball court backstage, but there's a tunnel at the opposite end of the tunnel that, say, down by the buck and shoots where the barrel racers come in and out. They ride their horses from the warm-up tent to the back. They either ride or lead their horses. It's all across concrete, so they've got this, what is it, 8 feet wide or something, red carpet that they bring their horses back there, and then they're backstage. So when you ride in, like, I know that my son Lane took a picture that's so cool, of Taylor riding in from behind the black curtain to rope his first calf at the NFR. All the cowboys always talk about how the first time you ride in, like, you don't realize how it feels like 17,000 people are right on top of you. But I think it really is like that. Whereas in the earlier going, in however many of Oates' first ones and stuff, say, for example, the Bulldoggers, they rode in from like the rough stock end, and there was a moat along that side. It would be on the heelers and the hazers side of the arena, the long length of the arena, a moat. So when the Bulldoggers come in order, they're watching the other runs arena side. It was, same with the team members.
Are you sure that entryway at the other end wasn't a remodel? I don't know this, but something makes me think that tunnel at the other end on the timed event end was not in place back then. I could be wrong. But if you look at the Governor's Cup and you look at these venues where there's typically only one entryway, if you don't want them riding through the arena, you've got to create a moat. And I just wonder, I don't know, I don't remember.
Well, that's
I
what
wonder. I'll check
saying.
into that.
That's probably right. But by the way, back then, did that practice basketball court exist where we have the press room these days? Probably not. I mean, there's probably all kinds of remodel. But the fact of the matter is, for all that time, the Bulldoggers, team ropers, and calf ropers were arena side in the moat, right there on their horses, watching the guys in front of them go. And so, and guys have told me too, different things, like it got real interesting. Say you're a team roper and you're up 7th that night, and 6th and 8th, they're riding mares and you're riding a stud. Well, that got really interesting sometimes, but I mean, it was very, very different. So you watched, from arena side instead of from backstage. So and then they did remove the moat, and it gave them more width of the arena. They brought the seats down and sold premium tickets, the gold buckle seats, but the gold buckle seats did not used to exist. So.
Well, and interestingly enough, they've went to digital signage, and that wasn't very long ago. But forever and a day, every sponsor sign in that arena was hand painted. Hand painted, right? Not printed, hand painted signs forever and ever and ever. And when they created those gold buckle seats, they went out for sale. They've got hundreds of years. It's almost like a waiting list to get a booth in the trade show. But remember when we talked to Vold about her seats, because those seats, like my boss, Dan Shaw, for the Utah Days of 47, he has 4 seats. He's a timed event guy down there on the timed event end, front row, right? And that he got whenever the first time they sold them, and he'll never let them go. And it's true, everybody. They put these things in wills. Like they're in estates and wills. That's how important those gold buckle seats are for Rio. So yeah, it's
over tickets, season tickets at the NFR. There are lawsuits. There are, when people get divorced, it's hell fighting over in the settlement of how that's going to go. It is a big deal because you can't come by them anymore. So the other thing that people don't remember is that, now people talk about the yellow arena, the yellow sheets, the yellow bucket sheets, whatever. It wasn't always yellow in there. I don't remember what year it changed, but it wasn't.
Red, blue, and
Oates remembering when it was red and blue.
either red.
Red or blue. Yes, I remember the dark blue. But anyway, so, okay.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, there's a lot of history, and if any of you know spinners, we'll give you the phone number and stuff when we go through this. But if you have some more questions that we can find out answers for in and around the NFR, but it is amazing. We start laying stuff out in the fan zone there on the Sunday prior, and the amount of stuff that has to happen to get that ready for the Super Bowl or rodeo from an operation standpoint is staggering. Okay, Connie, 814 does not represent the majority. I think that has to do with the guy that said that he fast forwards me. So thank you, Connie. 814 does not represent the majority. I love hearing both sides presented on No Spin. Enjoying hearing all the facts. Thank you for the best podcast in rodeo. Thank you, Connie, and thanks for not fast forwarding me.
Super nice.
Okay. Here we go. Next one. Now, remember, we challenged our no spinners to tell us what they thought about the nominees getting on stage. Remember that? So we've got some responses from our no spinners. The first one is, I think the nominees still get the recognition if you do camera shots or a picture on the screen. Watching it last year, I could immediately sense that all of them, except maybe the winner, were uncomfortable. So my vote is not to bring them on stage. My 2 cents. So thank you. Thank you for that. I think both Kendra and I gave our opinion on that. The 806. I really enjoy your podcast. Thank you for being open to feedback. I vote for the PRCA top 5 nominees to wait off stage for the announcement of the winner. Since y'all have access to get answers to tough questions, can you find out how many PRCA members actually vote on year-end awards? Rumors say it's a very low percentage of the total membership that is making the decisions for these prestigious awards. I did, Kendra, go out and get an official response on this. This year, 22% of the membership voted. So, I don't know.
Typical.
You've got a fifth of the membership that voted. And, I don't know what the national vote is for the president of the United States. But voting is a privilege that people just don't take advantage of. There you have it.
But just a little tidbit I'll kick in there is that steer ropers are really good about voting. So go ahead.
Well, they're a close-knit group that they actually communicate well with each other too. They really pay attention to their discipline. There's a lot of things about steer ropers that other disciplines could learn from. And how they manage their group, frankly.
Yep.
The 615, I think that'd be Nashville. Pretty sure 615 is Nashville, if I'm not wrong. I could be wrong. Put the top 5 in the back room. Winner has to give the other 4 $100 to each and a drink.
To drink.
And the winner has to start a tab for the night. Okay, well. Yeah. Well, they do serve free drinks, and we don't need any of the nominees drinking anymore. I'm just saying. And we darn sure don't need on back number night anybody drinking anymore.
It's a pretty good idea though. If you win, the drinks are on you downstairs after it's all over. If anybody's still standing, not okay. Yeah.
Challenge. Winners, get your credit card out. All right, from the 970 up in the Colorado area, this is an interesting one. It's a little long, but I think it's interesting to listen to. The dozens of state queens at the Miss Rodeo America pageant graciously smile, clap, and congratulate one winner who's announced Miss Rodeo America, even though they dread it as much as, if not more than, any PRCA award winners. This is after 9 days of a long and difficult competition. Although putting themselves at risk for failure and criticism is something they do willingly just to be a part of the NFR, the display of superhuman sportsmanship when they hung the winner is a testament to their character.
Hug, not hug.
Hug the winner. Sorry, hug the winner. Hug the winner. Hug the winner. Yeah, well, that's true. Well, I was thinking sash in my mind, right? They hang the sash. Anyway, when they hug the winner is a testament to their character. I think having all 5 on stage shows the same testament of character from the people who are leaders in our sport. Losing stings. How we handle it and grow from it speaks to the strength and our love of our careers in the rodeo and our rodeo family. There's some good lessons to be had in facing our fears and shaking the hands of the peers who beat us out. I'm telling you right now, I could not agree with 970 more. I love that. I just think that's so true.
I think it's true, and I think it's great. I also think that the 4 people who did not win, they are happy for that person. But do you, as the guy behind the curtain trying to rattle off this event, ship shape, do you want then the 4 people to show how gracious they are by either shaking hands or hugging 4 other people before they go, or it's I don't think it's that they're not being gracious, but it's sort of like then they're shown like, you guys go this way, we need this guy this way. But I feel like whoever wins, and the people who don't win, I feel like they do want to be gracious. They want to shake that person's hand, but there's really not time to shake 4 hands. There is that too.
There's time. There's something to be said in live shows. All of us like to kind of we read people by their mannerisms, and I think that's what makes people uncomfortable in this. And when they do America's Got Talent or whatever, and they're like, and the winner is, and there's a 10-minute drum roll so that everybody craps their pants while they're waiting to see who the winner is, but I don't think that really fits our culture. And so, we've stated I think it's an honor to be in the top 5. But I appreciate the fact that people feel uncomfortable. So we've got one more on this. 806. I really enjoy the podcast. Thank you for being open to feedback. I vote the top 5 nominees wait off stage for the announcement of the winner. Since y'all have access to get pressure. Oh, I already read that one. So I'm going to make an announcement. I don't know if I'm supposed to or not, but because I'm producing the show, I will tell you that the decision has been made. What we will do is we will put the 5 nominees on camera. And there's a reason for that, if you're wondering. We'll put them on camera. We'll announce the winner. We'll cut off of that. We'll follow the winner to the stage. We do that for efficiency and time. Because when I took it over, and you remember this, Kendra, nobody knew who won. Everybody was sitting at their table. We had the room turned the other way. Remember, we had the room turned the other way where they used the permanent stage, and it was like 1.5 miles to the back tables.
Yes.
And it literally took 4 or 5 minutes for the winner to get up there because they shook everybody's hand, which I would do on the way. So we're gonna show them. We're gonna give them the credit they deserve on the screen live. And there's another reason for that, because they all get awards too. They get plaques for being nominees, so they'll get a live shot. There'll be certain people in the room that can see that, right? But then, so nobody feels uncomfortable, we'll immediately follow the winner on stage with a camera, right? The people that do not get the award will get to pick up their plaques and go back and be with their families. So I think it's a happy balance. While I would have been fine with slides, this is a happy balance. It gets everybody in one spot. That's the other thing we worry about that people don't think about is you announce the winner and the winner thinks they're going to lose and they don't like it and they get a stomach ache and they go to the bathroom and nobody can find the winner. So we do need all 5 of them in a spot. We'll show them on the screen. We'll cut away from it so that if anybody's uncomfortable or you won't see that and it won't make them uncomfortable because they won't have to go on stage. So I think it's a good, happy medium.
Yes, and the showing all 5 sort of live concept is something like what they might do at the Academy Awards or the CMAs. They'll show everyone who's nominated, and then once then they cut to the winner. And so there's a reason they do that. I think it's great.
And if we had the budget for like 30 handheld cameramen, we could go all over the room and show them at their tables with their families, but that's not there. So I think we've got a really good plan. We'll see how it works. And, but I do think that the nominees will feel more comfortable with this. They might say, oh, why do we have to do this? But the reason is we need everybody in one spot, right? We need to be able to grab the winner quickly, get their reaction, and follow them on stage. For all of the people that don't get to be in that room at South Point and are watching this on TV, help us out, folks. So,
or from across the hallway, since it's so popular. Yes.
They're not, they're not going to do that. That was a big mistake. The whole room on the other side where you had nominees over there or winners over there, that ain't happening. By the way, that was a learn from something and don't do it again. So that's not happening. Big night. So I think I got all of them. Let me real quick before we wrap up for the day. Let me encourage all of you. If you've got some NFR questions, some behind the scenes stuff, shoot it to us. But if you want to give us feedback, remember we don't know who's giving it to us, so don't worry about that. If you want to text it to us, you can text us at 817, get your pen out, 817, that's North Central Texas, by the way, 817-668-2395, 817-668-2395. Shoot us a text, or what most people like to do, shoot us an email at nospinfeedback, all one word, at gmail.com. nospinfeedback at gmail.com if you cannot spell. There you go. See, I sound like a promo. I'm pretty good at delivering promos, aren't I?
Well, yes. Before we say goodbye, I don't know what your next trek is. My next thing is this coming weekend is the inductions in Oklahoma City at the National Rodeo Hall of Fame. And board meetings and induction ceremonies and festivities Friday and Saturday night, which is really fun. And so that's my next stop. What about you?
Well, one of my initiatives that I'll be working on with several meetings, and we've had it on our show, and you and I haven't talked about this, but I'm going to share it. I am passionate about mental health in our sport. I'm actually passionate about mental health and suicide awareness across the country, which is why our rodeo supports Live On. I'm passionate about cancer awareness for pediatric cancer with Golden Circle, but I'm going to some of the big boys in our industry and having conversations about the fact that we've got elbows and knees and stuff like that covered through the gracious a long-time support of Justin Boots, but the Western Sports Foundation is out here trying to figure out how to fund and make available to both professional rodeo cowboys and bull riders, PBR people, the opportunity to, when you need help psychologically, mentally, or you're facing the thought of life's not worth it. And so I'm going to go out, put a little time in trying to figure out how to assist the Western Sports Foundation in funding something that I think we really need in our sport, and that is some conscious awareness and money put towards mental health awareness. And then I'm also going to go to Bobby Kerr's memorial at the Coliseum. When is that? The 16th?
No, it's November 19th at 4 p.m.
And I sent Susan a note just this morning saying, thinking about you, praying about you. So often you get a lot of support right when something tragic happens. But we should all remember those people in our lives that as time passes and things slow down, that's often the hardest for the ones that lost the person closest to them, because that pain comes in waves. And we need to continue in our families and in our lives and in our culture, because we need to continue to support these people, because losing your best friend, I don't even want to contemplate it.
I get it, and just in the last few days, PRCA steer wrestler Kyler Dick from Utah lost his twin brother Kendall in an ATV accident, and that's an amazing family from Utah. They're wonderful people, and I just, our rodeo community is big enough that there's going to be some amazing happy things, and there's going to be some really hard sad things. And so I totally agree with you. When the storm passes, we need to check in with those people for sure. So anyway,
It does. Well, like always, thank you for bringing a wealth of knowledge and great conversation to No Spin Rodeo. We want to thank all of you that watched us live. You can go to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, and catch up on any no spins forever and ever. You can watch us live on Facebook, but then eventually it goes away. But you can always catch us on YouTube. And all of you listening to the podcast, thank you very, very much. We are continually amazed at the people that listen to our show, and we are both incredibly humbled and thankful that you listen to our show. So thank you, No Spinners. Spread the word. We hope to be educational. We hope to be zero BS. We work really hard at that. And there's nobody with more credibility in the industry than the lady in the box next to me, Miss Santos, who's one of the greatest. So we want to thank you for joining us for episode number 83. This is No Spin Rodeo. We hope all of you have a very safe and blessed week. We'll see you in about 7 days. Adios.